Today, we're going to talk to somebody who's going to show us that just because you're retired does not mean your life is over. There is so much more to do. Susan, you have such a diverse background. You've done so many things in your life. You remind me of me. I've had all kinds of different careers throughout my life as well, which maybe leads to these things. But you've been a librarian. You've been a middle school teacher. You've been a paralegal. You've taught people English as a second language. All of these things lead you up to this point where you have this fabulously unique class that is. We can't even call it like a typical class where the teacher is standing up at the front of the class and lecturing the students on the history of the United States or something like that. Tell me about this brainstorming class that you do.
Well, I like to learn things, and so I had taken a workshop about brainstorming. And the whole workshop was different kinds of techniques that individuals or teams could use to brainstorm. And I thought, well, this is something I know a bit about. And wouldn't it be cool if I could teach a couple of brainstorming tips at the beginning of each class, and then ask a question or present a problem and ask the class to solve it.
Is this like a hypothetical problem? Is this a current events thing? Like how does this work? How practical is this?
Well, the first time I came into class for that particular course, I gave them a problem and I said, my homeowners association needs board of directors. How can we get more people to volunteer? And then...
so real world problems.
That was one of them. One time, this was during the time when there were some street takeovers in Cleveland, and one of the students suggested that as a problem for the class to solve. Now, sometimes we're coming up with ideas to help you be more prepared should you be in a street takeover. But it was interesting to get the variety of answers. One student said she always carries an extra key, an extra wallet, and an extra phone that she doesn't mind losing.
Wow.
And then if she's prepared, if somebody wants to grab her things, she just gives them things that she doesn't care about. Another person said to be sure to keep enough distance between you and a car in case you were in a car during a street takeover that you would be able to pull away by either pulling onto the sidewalk carefully or pulling out into traffic and making a U-turn. Locking your doors. Sometimes there were common sense suggestions. Another one was one of the students wanted to decide about a book that he's planning to write, but he had 3 very diverse ideas: a memoir, a book about philosophy, or mystery.
Wow.
And so he threw out ideas. He asked the class to help solve the problem, rather. And then the class threw out ideas, and I write the ideas on the whiteboard and then take a picture of it before I leave the classroom for the day. And then I incorporate it in the next week's handout so that they can have a written record of the ideas we came up with.
This is awesome. So people are they're gleaning all of these different perspectives on things, because I imagine you're right. There's a diverse background of people coming to these classes, and so everyone has a perspective that they're going to do on these things, and maybe some things that you wouldn't think of in particular for yourself or whatever. Other people go, "Oh, is this a way that people make new friends?"
I think so, yes. Most of the people in class have seen the other students in other classrooms during the day, but a lot of the other classes don't involve the students talking. So they don't get a feel for what other people are like. What are their personalities like? I know it's a natural group for our students to make friends with. Everybody there likes learning, or they wouldn't be participating in the Encore program. They like learning. So that's something in common. And as they share their opinions and their ideas, other people get to know them a bit better. And then there's a chance that friendships can form, which I think is great.
This is the amazing thing about Encore in general and your class in particular is sometimes you already know a friend, right? You bring them with right to class.
Mm-hmm.
But well, as we were talking about, most of the time somebody's talking about American history or philosophy or they're and so you might be sitting next to somebody and you might chat with them or see them passing them in the hall. But most of the time people are like really in a hurry. They want to get to the next class. Nobody wants to walk in late and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And you are really opening up a forum, not just for problem solving. That's just like the brainstorming thing is like the basis by which people start to understand each other better. And I imagine maybe there's been some really heated discussions about things at some point.
Occasionally, people, well, I'll backtrack a little. When I start the course, I say, we all are people who have different life experiences, different perspectives, and it's very important that we be respectful in the way we talk, and the way that we hold ourselves. One of the worst things you can do in a conversation is to roll your eyes, because it just is so disrespectful. And so I've mentioned that too. It's not okay to disrespect somebody else's opinion. You don't have to agree with them, but you do have to be respectful.
I think in the 21st century with social media, people have sort of become a little insulated from social interaction. And if they disagree with, you could vehemently disagree with somebody on a given topic of whatever it is, but still treat them in a respectful way and talk to them in a manner that's like, even though I disagree, have you considered this, that, and the other? And how much of that do you have to foster in the class? I mean, do you have to remind people of this, or do they just come to it naturally? Or
I would say the majority of students come to it naturally. Only occasionally have I had to step in a little and redirect people back to the topic, or maybe make sure that there's not one person who is talking a great deal more than other people. When there appear to be people in the room who would like to talk too.
Yeah. If you have a conversation hogger, they like the sound of their voice. I don't know if I'm referring to myself or not.
Well, we're teachers, so we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't like to talk.
There you go. I have me personally, I have found that when somebody says something that I find to be, that I initially don't agree with or something like that, I usually start asking questions, even if it's, now, how did you come to that point of view? How did you arrive at that conclusion? How much of that is going on? How much time are people spending talking with each other, asking questions? Why do you think the way you do, or do you do any of this in your class?
I,
Do you
I
make
think,
people defend their position?
No, no,
Okay.
I don't. I don't think I do very much of that. I prefer to let people talk about what they think on a particular topic or how they reacted to a TED Talk, let's say, since that's one of the courses I teach. A person can have a personal reaction, and it is valid. Whatever their personal reaction is, it's valid. It's just if they move to attacking a group of people that I would want to step in.
Okay, so it's an exchange of ideas. It's an exchange of perspectives. And where does the TED Talk? Because I've heard of TED Talks. I've even watched some of the videos. Shame on me. You had to explain to me what TED stands for.
Oh, TED stands for Technology, Engineering, and Design. The original TED Talks were only on those topics. But over time, they started adding social sciences such as psychology, sociology, anthropology. They still include technology. AI is a big topic right now. They include things about mosquitoes, biology, science.
The last one that I haven't seen one in a while, but the last one I saw was the poor fellow who was the ghost boy. Are you familiar?
No.
So talk about interesting, far afield, not technology, not engineering, not design. This poor child, when he's a grown adult now, but when he was younger, he was in a coma for like 10 or 15 years or something like that. But he was completely aware of what was going on around him. And all the things that he went through, and hearing the conversations that the doctor was having with his mother about, listen, he's not going to come out of this, unplug him, let him go, this, that, and the other. And all the abuse that he suffered when people thought no one was looking, and he still has, I forget what caused so he still has some physical and some speech problems and so on and so forth, but it was just such a compelling talk. When you do your version of TED Talks, which is different than, the problem solving, the brainstorming.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your approach to these TED Talks.
Well, TED Talks are online videos about nonfiction topics. They're short. They normally run anywhere from 4 minutes to 25 minutes. I like to choose ones that are around 15 minutes. I watch them ahead of time, and they have transcripts for them as well, which helps me because I'm hard of hearing. So I read the transcript, and I take notes from it so that my students don't have to take notes about the individual TED Talks. I give them a handout at the beginning of the class when they come in, and then we watch the TED Talk. Then I turn the lights back up and I say, well, what do you think? And that just starts the conversation rolling. I do include some discussion questions in my handout, but I have never had to use them. Class just keeps going. I started teaching TED Talks because I wanted a course where my students could talk and participate. I've been a student in the Encore program, and it's tough to sit from 9 till 3 with you. You're changing classrooms and you're hearing different instructors and doing different things. It's not, you do have a 10-minute break between each class, but it's much more fun when you can participate and add your own thoughts, get to know the people in the room, get to know how they think. So I decided TED Talks might be a really good vehicle for that. Since they're supposed to talk. The students are supposed to talk. They're not supposed to sit there quietly.
So we're dialoguing, we're exchanging, we're looking at different perspectives. We're still learning, but the class becomes the teacher. You're almost more like a facilitator, and I mean that.
Yes, I would say that's true.
And the amazing thing, this is just my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The amazing thing is, when I was a child, I was taught to revere my elders. And now I'm getting close to that, being one of those myself. And it's not that the greatest generation or the first wave of the baby boomers or anything. It's not that they're irrelevant or people don't care about them. That's not my point at all. But I learned just conversationally more about farming than most people know from my grandmother, who was a farmer, and why you plant here and why you do this and where, do you plant next to trees or do you plant in an open field and all these different things. She had this knowledge either through trial and error or she got it through her elders. Today, young people, whatever we're calling them, millennials, Generation X, whatever they are, I have an impression that the elders are not as necessary other than we like grandma or whatever, because we can get all the information we need from Google. And there's a difference between Google and grandpa's or grandma's wisdom. And here we are, the Encore class, we're working with students who are 60, 70, 80 years old. And now they're in a forum where their wisdom is welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You're doing some really fabulous work. What a novel approach to teaching these classes. You're not disseminating information. You're drawing it out of them.
Well, I've developed it over time. I started out disseminating as an Encore instructor. I'm a retired librarian, so my first course was about how to foster a love of reading in your grandchildren. I followed that one with Secrets of the Public Library.
Well, there you have it. You have the elder generation, right, fostering something in the younger generation. There's relevance there. Even in that class, the older generation still is meant to feel like they have meaningful contributions to make. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. So I started out with topics that I felt I knew a lot about. Children's literature, the public library, storytelling. But I think that I finally, after a while, evolved into wanting the students to talk more. I'd heard from some of my students that they wanted to participate more. And they are a great resource. One of the courses I taught was the idea of one of my students. At the end of the course, I asked, are there any topics that you're particularly interested in learning about? And this student said that she would like to volunteer, but she has a medical condition that makes it hard for her to make a specific time commitment every week to volunteer. So she wanted to find out about places, nonprofits, where she can volunteer, but not have to volunteer every week for an hour or 2 hours, because she might not feel well enough.
Right.
So
there's a challenge.
Yeah, that's one of the things I am interested in, is volunteering in nonprofit organizations. And I live in Medina County, so I had a number of contacts there. And that course evolved into inviting a speaker from a nonprofit coming into class, talking about their nonprofit's mission, their history, what kinds of needs do they have for volunteers, and what would a volunteer do if they volunteered at their organization. We heard from the Miracle League of Northeast Ohio, which is a nonprofit that helps people with disabilities play baseball.
Oh, there you go.
They have a special field. It's rubberized, so if you use a wheelchair, you can navigate the bases on the rubberized field. They play only 2 innings. Everybody on one team bats in the first inning. They weren't too interested in fielding. They would like to have buddies who come and help them field.
You might want to get a 4-wheel drive wheelchair for that.
Some of them moved around the bases like they were using 4-wheel drive. But that was one of the nonprofits. We heard from Kids Book Bank in Cleveland, which was a newer nonprofit that I hadn't heard of before, but I had seen a receptacle in Strongsville where you could drop off books. And so I looked it up and thought, well, this is a nice nonprofit. They collect new or very gently used books and they distribute them to students in Cleveland.
And so the people in your class who are looking for volunteer opportunities, right there, you're exposing them to different things that they can be. And I again, just my personal perspective on things as society, we tend to not look at volunteering. We want to be paid for our time or whatever. And the rewards for, speaking personally again, the rewards for volunteering with something far exceeds any monetary things. It's so great that you're fostering all of these things and helping people who are retired and maybe not feeling like they are contributing anymore, having a forum to be able to contribute again. Thanks for doing that. I look forward to seeing you in more classes with the Tri-C Encore program.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.